Hello! So this video is for Clip Studio Paint's tip of the month. The theme for this video is drawing faces at different angles. Using the 3D models helps a lot from tracing over it or using it as a reference. Right here I'm just showing you what the different buttons do in the program. I usually just play around with it when I'm actually drawing instead of knowing exactly what they do just from the icon. So just play around with that. So at the far right corner, at the bottom, this is where you can change the proportions of your head, and the camera icon is where you can pick pre-styled poses. So I start my heads off with a circle, and then I draw a horizontal line where my head is going to be facing. The head is a sphere, so I draw a tiny curve at the top to have a more rounded look after I draw my horizontal lines. So I'm using the iPad, so to undo, I just quickly double tap and it'll quickly undo for me. Next, I mark the eyebrow and eye line. For this tutorial, I'm putting the eyebrow line at the middle of the circle, but for different styles, you can change this up. Draw a circle cutting into our sphere. And we will cut 2/3 of a circle, but most of the times, I just wing it. Depending on the angle is where more of the circle will show up. Front facing, you'll barely see two C's. To the side, you'll see the full circle. So here I'm showing you how the lips will look at an angle, more of an angle, like 3/4 view, instead of front facing or just side facing. So now we are drawing a triangle, but this triangle is more modified to be kind of a stylized U. So I connect that from the eye line and I just connect them down to their center point, and that's usually how I get the different angles. The triangle will look different based on where it is exactly. So now I'm going to draw the jaw. The jaw is kind of a wedge. I think of it as an L, but more angled than an L, and I just typically draw those like that. The softer the face is, you can round it out too. It doesn't have to be so sharp like this, but this is for my default faces, the structure I decide to use. So for the ears will be placed in the bottom furthest half and are between the brow ridge and the nose. And now, this is a final step I add. For the eyes, I have them kind of angled, at least for 3/4, so you can see. I think of it kind of as like a Z shape, but this helps me get tough to draw curves when you're looking from the side. So now I'm trying to show you, hey, looking top down, you'll notice that it's more of a cross. If you can do the first step where it's like the eyebrow line and the eye line, but when you're drawing the circle and drawing the center line and stuff, you just drag the center line all the way down. But yes, so now I'm going to show you some demonstrations of me using this. So the 3D models, so if you can see from the left hand side, there's like a little cube with the mouse. You just click that, 3D, drag it onto the screen, and from there I go back to my layers. I lower the opacity, I make a new layer on top, I grab my sketch brush, and then I simply just draw on top for this part. It's not bad to trace. It's definitely a good way to help learn, or if there's a really tricky angle. It's really easy with Clip Studio Paint's 3D models like this. You don't even have to just use the more figure-like ones. You could also use how you saw earlier, like you could use a sphere and trace over that. So here's another one where I have the pre-made one up. I simply just lower the opacity and I make a new layer on top, and then I'm drawing using the technique. You see, the steps I told you, I don't necessarily follow them like that all the time because I simply forget. I don't do it in order all the time. I'm human. But it's a good way to learn how to do it in order. Andrew Loomis, if you want to look more into it, is a lot better at teaching it than I am. But this is simply what I do now. I'm not a professional, but this is just my process. So I'll let you finish the rest of the video. It's not that much longer. But bye. Thank you for listening to my tips on how to draw the face from different angles. I hope you maybe learned something new.